Viper.
No problem. Thank you very much for the introduction. So, hello, I'm known as the BPG13, also known as Viper to my regular viewers. This is Porsche Challenge for the PlayStation 1. And as said, you guys picked the green car. And it is worth noting as well, so we're going to do the championship. That is the theme of the Any Percent, which is 12 races, 4 short, 4 long, and 4 interactive. We'll get into that in a second. But you guys picked the green car, and the green car is being driven by Beats. So really, you're actually picking a character. You just never knew that. That was the bit I didn't really mention. But there is actually 6 characters with a 7th secret character. So we've got Dan, Beats, Takabo, Nikita, Marco, and Rachel, with a Porsche test driver supposedly being thrown in the mix. There's no name for that, he's just known as test driver, and he drives a black Porsche Boxster. Now, I'll get into the run, but we're going to be playing it on easy mode, obviously, to make it as easy as possible. And if we are ready on the time, I'll give you a countdown from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so allow me to kind of introduce this game a little bit better. So this was made in 1997. It was developed by Sony Computer Entertainment Europe. And this game is actually ported over to the United States and to the Japanese PlayStation as well. So this was actually released in Europe first and then got ported over to the States and the Japanese version. Now, just like you might expect, this game runs at 25 FPS in Europe and 30 in North America and in Japan. Now, I should just mention, so each of the characters that you can play as, they all have their own personality traits. So, for example, Beats is supposedly, according to the manual, I've actually got the manual in front of me here. So, Beats is supposedly a DJ. He is English, he's 25, and he doesn't like many of the characters. Well, likes a few. But he likes the model, also known as Rachel, the most. So, Dan, who drives a silver Porsche Boxster, he's known as the Kickboxer, and he's the American. Takabo, who drives a red Porsche Boxster, who you may have seen already, is Dan. But yeah, Takabo is known as the Hacker. He's a young Japanese guy, drives the red Boxster. Rachel is known as the model. She's 19, she's from Sweden. Nikita is apparently French. She's 26, I think it is. And then there's Marco, I think is 24, and he's from Italy or something like that. So they all have characters, but the long story short, it's just a racing game. That's the thing. There's no like main story to this game. I will just say that. I know a few people have already mentioned it. Yeah, there's 4 locations in this game. So there is Stuttgart, there is the USA, Japan, and there's the Alpine, or Alpine, however you want to say it. So the first place we're in here, this is Stuttgart in Germany, which could also be referred to as the Porsche test track if you want to be a bit more specific about it. But yeah, so there's 4 locations altogether, and we go through each location 4 different times. So Stuttgart is obviously, this is the short version of the track. We've got USA coming up next, and each track is actually a different layout, of course, as you might expect, all different layouts. But the thing is that we're going to split this into 3 bits, as I said before. So you've got short, or classic as they're known. Then you've got the long stages, which are a bit longer, and then you've got interactive. Now, interactive are a bit more of a pick and mix sort of thing. So when you play the short tracks, or the classic tracks, the laps can be around 40 seconds to a minute, if that. If you play the long tracks, the tracks are obviously longer, that's the reason long, and they're about a minute and a bit apiece. It's also worth noting that you have more laps as time goes on in this game. So we start off by doing 3 laps per circuit, and eventually we get to Alpine in the long stages, and we have 4 laps per stage. So it is worth noting as well is that we have, as bye-bye Takabo, what we end up actually doing is we're not going to, like I said, we go to these locations and everything. We have the short, medium, the long, we have the interactive. The interactive are a bit more interesting because they have, so there's shortcuts in each track that you can take in the interactive stages. However, contrary to popular belief, the interactive ones, the shortcuts open on different laps. Now, here's something I found out. The shortcuts will open on different laps, on different regions, with different characters. And it gets even worse, because if you restart one particular race, the shortcuts change, and the routes change. So, pretty much what you're going to get at the end of this run is for random... The stages are pretty much mixed up. But they're exactly the same as the short and the long stage, they're just mixed together. But when the shortcuts are open and when they're not, that's the bit you don't know. So it's going to be quite random for the last 4. But yeah, like I said, there's 6 characters. There is a 7th character, but like I said, you can use either cheats or I believe you can beat the game in mirrored mode. So this is something. So you beat the game normally, like we're doing. You play it with all the tracks are the normal way, so they're all going the normal route. I don't know. They're all going the normal route. But if you go into mirror mode, obviously everything's flipped, of course. But yeah, it's quite a fun time. It's always quite interesting when that happens. Are the non-player cars always in the same order? So the non-player cars are in random order. So for example, depending on who you play as will depend on who your rival is. So Nikita is Beats' rival. If I play as Dan, then Marco is his rival. If I play as Nikita, then her rival is either, I think it's usually Rachel. Rachel is Dan. It's a bit of a mixture. After a bit, the test driver, who's in the black Porsche as I mentioned, he makes an appearance. And there's one notable thing. So the test driver who drives the black Porsche Boxster, his car is actually 10 kilometers faster than the regular Boxster. So we top out on this version of the game anyway. North America registers it in supposedly I think it's miles an hour. But to put it bluntly, the cars top out at about 150 miles an hour in manual. If you're playing in automatic, the cars top out at 145 miles an hour each. If you play as test driver, then what ends up happening is test driver is actually 160 miles an hour, or 10 miles an hour faster basically. And he actually provides an advantage. Not only that, you can actually tune test driver. Now originally, if you're just unlocking the test driver, one thing you probably didn't know is there is cheats for this game, like there is for most games. Back in these days anyway. But what you can do is when you do this, you can unlock the test driver with cheats, and you can also do a few other bits as well. You can tune them, which is pretty cool. Also, one other thing to know, if the game skips for whatever reason, as in if you hear the music skip, that's just the disc, because this is being run on real hardware. So there is going to be a few disc skips. This is actually the North American version of the game, not the European version. I have been practicing a lot with the European version, but also the North American version. Now, before anybody asks, what's the Japanese version like? As far as we know, it's the same as the United States, so NTSC, because usually that's what it's based off. However, there could be possible changes that we don't know about. I haven't fully tested it myself, but I hope to one day. But who knows? Also, one other thing that's worth mentioning is that for every single race that we do, as soon as we cross the line, we hit the start. Now, if you hit it too early, unfortunately, the game pauses. That's fine. What you want to do is you want to try and stop the game from carrying on. I don't know. That probably made no sense, did it? Yeah, you want the game to skip into the loading screen as much as possible. Between all 4 bits as well, you can, if you want to, you can save between the parts. So once you've done all the short races, you can save. Once you've done all the long races, you can save. And obviously, once you've done the interactive, you can save. But obviously, by that point, you've unlocked a few other bits and pieces. So like I said, it's a fairly basic and straightforward racing game. There's not really too much to it other than just to learn how to drive the car, really. And just as a quick mention as well, as it probably will come as absolutely no surprise to anybody, yes, every car that you can see in this game is Porsche Boxsters. They're not 911s, they're not 944s or any other type of Porsche. They're all Porsche Boxsters. Really, they should have called this Porsche Boxster Challenge, or Boxster Challenge maybe. Also, Dan has decided to spin. That's the second time I've caught him doing that now. He did that in practice too. Interesting. So you can, like I said, you can catch the AI off guard, and if the AI moves over on you, then that's just kind of how it goes. Like I said, it's worth noting as well, in case it's not obvious, but the game will get harder as you go. Also, this Alpine, whatever, it's quite an easy track, very easy track, but here's the thing, is that depending on the car and the corner, this is something I also figured out as well, found out, should I say, when I was playing the game more than this, is that you can actually have different driving styles depending on the character. So for example, Beats' car isn't too bad to drive, but if you go with the red Boxster, I think like I said, by Double Joe or whatever it's called, I forget, but his car's actually a lot slower than you think. Like, it has a good top speed and stuff like that, so yeah, I don't know. Also, hello, Axington. Thank you for the good luck. Go get them. So far, this seems to be on pretty good pace. So, the game, I'm playing the game on a delay, by the way, for those curious as to why they hear like a foot pedal. So, I'm using the foot pedal to split between races. But yeah, should be pretty damn good. If you've got any questions or anything you want to mention about the charity, then feel free to go right ahead.
So I've not had any new donations as of yet, but I'd like to just talk a bit about SpecialEffect if we've got the time. A UK-based organisation, they make hardware and software for people with physical disabilities, allowing them to play games. So they do some great work. You can see some of the videos about the work that they do in the breaks. So yeah, everything that's donated is going to them. It's a really good cause.
No problem. Thank you very much. Also, ideally on this track, I always want to try and get sub 1 minute for the first lap if I can. I will mention as well is that obviously with the longer tracks, you can already tell that the tracks got longer because of the fact that, well, obviously everything's now saying that it's a longer version, but you can already tell as well that with all the, you know, how fast we're going through some of these corners as well, like there's now like chicanes being put in there and stuff like that. The tracks do get a bit more difficult as they go. And in terms of, for me personally, this game feels more like a bit of a tech demo, but it was released a bit late. The only reason I mention that is because I think Two may have just mentioned it in chat, who's also another speedrunner for this game, is that after you beat the main game, there's only the mirrored mode, and that's literally it. That's the only thing that's left in this game, as well as unlocking the test drive and stuff like that. Obviously, you could go back and try to do speedruns with the test drive and stuff like that, because he is quicker, but as of right now, I am going to mention this, but as of right now, the test driver is not allowed. It has to be one of the regular characters, which hence the reason is what any percent is. So I have to be very careful with these corners as well. And there is also something to mention. So when you start racing, or just before you start racing in the championship, practice, whatever, it always asks you for your driving style. So it says arcade or simulation. Now supposedly arcade is for the beginners and simulation is for more, let's say, advanced players. But here's the thing, I have never once noticed a huge difference. I feel like the driving is a bit easy with arcade, but simulation doesn't feel that much different. I don't know, it's very strange. Also, this is going to be sub 3 minutes for the long race. That's pretty damn good, I'm not going to lie. Pretty damn good. On to USA. Now, USA's track, here's the thing. So USA's short and long track, the short track in particular, I quite like it. And the long, so not so much, but I think the America stages are my personal favourite. And there's all the whole thing as well is that even though your car maxes out at 150 miles an hour, when it goes down that hill there, it does actually manage to get a bit of extra speed, so you obviously want to keep that as much as possible. There is a few trees that we need to dodge going through here, so we'll see how this goes. But yeah, pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. And I have to be very careful as well, because you just never know what you're going to get with her. Also, yeah, the building popping, exactly. So now, on this track, is unlike the bridge that we had to go over the first time around, we don't actually get to go over it this time. If anything, it's like, nope, you don't get to go over it this time. So, here's the hacker right on cue. Now, as I mentioned, there is 12 races. This is only the 6th race. I know what you're thinking, bloody hell, 13.5 minutes in. Also nice, sub 1 minute. 14.5 minutes in, and he's about halfway through. Yeah, believe me, the races start after this race. Every race we're going to do is 4 laps long. Like the Alpine and Japan tracks that come after this, that are the longer versions. There's not a lot to them. They are long tracks. I mean, like I said, they're about a minute and a bit apiece. Japan's actually not too bad, the long version. The interactive side though is quite interesting. Like I said, so you have like various shortcuts that you'll do on the tracks. Pretty damn good. But for a racing game, as I was saying before, this is about as basic as it gets. And in terms of speedrunning, most racing games are quite straightforward, but this one, I'd say, is more so, really. I mean, once you pick the handling up and really get used to handling, yeah, fair to say you'll easily beat this game within like an hour or so, even less than that, as I've already done. So the current record, by the way, for console, so the console emulator sides are split up for this. Console is currently a 44:22, which is set by myself, and the emulator is around 44:31, although that's yet to be completely verified. But yeah, in terms of emulation versus console, they can both match each other quite well, although console seems to be winning currently, only slightly. A couple of seconds, but I'm pretty sure it's more when you really get down to it, you know, when you really get into it, because fastest speed on emulation it's a bit of a tricky subject, whereas with console it's genuine. So yeah, that's something. And that is, hopefully, once we get to the corner, that is the United States done. So like I said, as soon as you get to the line, that's it. As soon as you cross the line, boom, yeah, you're done. Dead easy. So Alpine's a bit more tricky. Or Alpine, whatever. Regardless, I'll keep saying that probably this whole run, so I do apologise for those that call it Alpine and people that call it Alpine. It's just the way I've been brought up, okay? Bit of a tricky one. Anyway, regardless, so the long circuit for this game, sorry, for Alpine. I suppose you're right in that one too. I can always say that one. Anyway, regardless. So, the long circuit of this is a bit fascinating. So you may have noticed when we went up that hill, there's actually a few shortcuts that we don't use in the long one because you can, but they are in the interactive. So you may have noticed that as we went up that hill before, and this fence here on the right, these are actually shortcuts which do save time over the AI, as you might expect. So there is a part of this circuit which for me is quite infuriating, which is the jump, because I can personally never get it right. I always mess up. You can slow down before it, but unfortunately, why would you want to do that when we must speedrun, right? So it seems to be quite difficult to get right. So I want to try and make sure that that's alright. So as I get to the top of this hill in a second, you'll see what I mean in a minute. So up this hill here, on the left there's some gates there, but you can actually go through them. I don't mean like clipping out the bounds or anything like that. I mean, that's a genuine shortcut that you can use in the interactive one. Also, I will mention the soundtrack for this game it's not too big, but then again, it's a bit of a, I wouldn't say it's a budget title, but given how some of the racing games back in the late 90s had more than just like a couple of songs, this one really didn't. The shortcut is not slower, no. So obviously, most shortcuts in the game, they're all faster. Some feel slower, but really you are actually gaining time on the laps. It's very strange. You never know. The cars swerving erratically. So the cars do swerve a bit erratic at times. They're not always there, and they're not always swerving erratic. Speaking of erratic, you may notice as well, the whole time, if you look at the bottom left corner of the screen, you can see a map, and there's a yellow dot following it. So your rival will often rubber band quite hard, I can say, as well. They'll constantly rubber band to you. The AI themselves are quite easy to get past. When you're just going past the AI normally, it's completely fine. But the moment you get the AI behind you, it makes it so difficult, I think. Getting past the AI up until you get to the front is a piece of cake. It's then playing a game of hold off the rubber band for most of the run. Bit similar to old Need for Speed games, I'd say. How aggressive the rubber banding? Very aggressive. Yeah, exactly. Exactly what Toom's saying. Toom's actually answering all the questions. So the thing is that, like, the other day I was doing a run and I was a good couple of seconds ahead and they just rubber banded and beat me. So it is quite difficult. You can never stretch your advantage too much because the AI is always going to be right behind you. I mean, in my opinion, the Alpine track, Alpine, is always the same thing. It's always the same. It's very tricky to beat the AI, in my opinion. But so far, we're beating it hands down quite well. So it seems like it's not the only game then, from what I can tell. But yeah, so the interactive ones are coming up next. Now, Stuttgart is alright. I'd say even when the game catches you off guard, you know what to expect. Whereas in the US and in the Alpine tracks and Japan tracks, they're a bit more tricky. Most notably the US. I don't have a clue what's going to happen with the US shortcuts. I thought I had them down, and turns out I don't. Yeah, it's, like I said, fairly straightforward, not a lot to it. You can also, when you do the shortcut as well, the AI can clearly whoop your butt, and yeah, it's not a very nice feeling. There we go. Nice. That was pretty close. You saw right at the end then what happens when the AI decides to really get there. Like, yeah, I'll just roll on to you. So the Japan track, the long version. Now, the long version of this track does take a bit longer, but I'll be honest, the Japan track, in my opinion, isn't as bad, especially on the interactive stage. But it does take a bit longer than you'd expect. Like I said, for me personally, my Achilles heel is either the USA or Alpine. Yeah, it's always that one for me. It's also worth noting as well, so I'm pretty sure the Alpine stages are set in the Alps or somewhere around there, something like that. Stuttgart is obviously set in Germany, like Porsche's home track, like racetrack. Japan is kind of self-explanatory. It's quite close. And obviously with US, it's probably based in Miami, I'd guess. That's my guess for the US. So we'll probably take Dan. Dan's always at the front with beats, but if you play as Dan, then he's usually a bit less. So I think usually at the front is either Nikita, well it's Marco usually. don't forget what I said before about the music skipping. If you hear the music skipping, I can only apologise on that one. Like I said, games and how the disc goes, so should be a fun time. Also, thank you too. I will try my best. Got another 20 odd minutes, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Also, not to kind of scare anyone, but this is on pace by quite a bit, and then some. So this could be PB for me, which would be quite impressive. And by how much, I don't know. The fun thing is, so the last time I ran this game at a marathon was, I think it was a race against time. It was actually one of my first marathons I ever did, and that was 4 years ago. Since then I've been in quite a few. This was actually one of the... So, WASD has actually always been one of those marathons that's kind of eluded me. I remember hearing about it and things like that, and just either it clashed with something else or I couldn't make it, so it's unfortunate. So I'm glad that they're able to accept me for this, and big thanks to allowing me for them to run this game. So possibly Sam, possibly. I'm not saying anything yet because you never know what might happen with the interactive stages. I've got to get past Alpine first. But big thanks as well to all of those that donated for this. At the end of the day, it's all going to a great cause. I'm quite happy that as a bid war it did quite well. Yeah, myself and Beats, thank you. Beats being the guy I'm playing as, obviously. But yeah, if anyone's got any general questions you want to ask about the game, feel free to go right ahead. Otherwise, I'm just going to go crack on. I wish I could give you some details about the car, but not 100%. So this is supposed to be green, but I'm pretty sure it's like a teal green or aqua colour, like a dark aqua colour possibly, like turquoise, like dark turquoise or something, or is it cyan blue, something like that. How long have I been playing the game? So I played the game from quite an early age, but haven't really played it like for the last, I don't know, 20 or so years. That's not something I've played. But it is something. Also, here comes the interactive one. So you can see that there's two different routes on screen. This is where it gets interesting. So you've got the short variation. So it starts short. You might have the long track at the end, or the long variation with the short end. It really depends. But on these 4 laps, we're going to see the short circuit, the long circuit, and a mixture of the long and the short together. So this is where the run turns a bit more interesting, in my opinion. So you're doing 4 laps, but you don't know what you're going to get. So we're starting with the long one, which is fine. It seems the game is giving us the long side of the circuit. Now, is it going to give us the long circuit or the short circuit at the end? I'm guessing the long one, right? Nope, it's going to give us a short circuit. See, this is it. You just don't know what you're going to get. So we've got the long circuit with the short ending. So what's what's lap 2 going to be? Like I said, if I reset this race right now, this track is going to be randomised again, and we don't know what we're going to get on the next time round. So I've really got to keep my eye out for shortcuts and everything on this one. So kind of fingers crossed and wish me luck. I think it also depends on character as well. I could be completely wrong on that one, but something tells me it depends on the character too. So we've had a short one. So have we got the long track? No, we haven't. Okay, so we've just had the long circuit with the short circuit, full short circuit. So now both of these next 2 laps are going to be the long ones. So they're either going to be short then the long, or long then the long. It's either the full long circuit or the short mix of the long. Again, remember what I said. These are completely random, so we don't know what we're going to get for a circuit. And in my opinion, the USA is a bit of a pain because you don't know when you can get the shortcut. It seems like we're getting the short circuit. Interesting. Short circuit with the long ending. So long ending being where the barricade is and you've got the hairpin. So this bit here. For me personally, that's what makes the interactive races more interesting. Like, you could have a really good run like I have, and then it can all be undone because the game's like, right, we're going to play mix and match with you now. And the thing is, in the times that I've been practicing this, the game's actually gone, yeah, okay, so you're going to have this route for this race and this route for this race. It does make things, like I said, a fair bit more interesting. So now that we've had the short with the long ending, it means we get the full long circuit. So I know exactly how the long circuit's going to go, so that's fine. And it's also the same with the USA. The USA, though, has the shortcuts, and the other thing is, too, is you don't know whether you're going to get the bridge. And you only have a brief few seconds to react when the bridge is there. Yeah, she probably thinks she is. Who knows? Me personally, like I said, when I was playing this as a kid, so I played this via one of the PS1 demo discs, just called Demo 1, that was available in Europe. I don't know which version it is because apparently there's several versions, but yeah, there you go. Do you have to get first in every race? Yes, you do. So I'd like to say no, but yeah, you do. It's a bit of a tricky situation, to be honest, because some races are harder than others to do, obviously. But most of them, I would say most of them, all of them, you have to get first in. Also, so either I can get the shortcut in this first lap, or I'm not going to get it. And I can't. Okay, cool. So this is where it gets interesting. So the bridge is, supposedly, the bridge is now open. Don't have a clue how. Maybe the bridge is open. Also, on the North American version, them trams are a lot closer together. And the bridge is open. Cool. So the bridge is open and the shortcut is open on lap 1. Like I said, this is where this will get interesting now, because that shortcut is either going to be open again or it's not going to be open. If I reset this race, what will happen is I will end up having a completely different set of shortcuts open to me. So now that gate's shut. Luckily, I'm driven far enough out to see that. So now we've got the long circuit, which is fine. This bit's fine. I know where I'm going here, so that's fine. Like I said, we've got the long circuit here. And he usually dodges around the trees. We get around him. Also, there is a church around there that's playing some hymns or something, but I don't know. Is the bridge closed? Yeah, it is. Okay, so the bridge is now closed. Like I said, you have to react fast to that bridge. Because if it comes up pretty damn quick. If it comes up too fast, if you're going too fast and you're not quick enough to react, then you lose time, a lot of it. So obviously you don't want to be doing that. Okay, so lap 3. Have I got the bridge or the shortcut? Like I said, I've got to check as I go nearer to it. That looks like it's shut to me. Could have been open. I think that might have been open actually. That looks like it was open, and it was, because the car's now right behind me. Okay, so I missed the shortcut there. That's a bit of a gutting feeling, because I missed the time save there. It does save a couple of seconds. And the bridge is shut, which means the bridge should be open on the last lap. With a bit of luck. Fingers crossed. So we're going to be doing, I think it's the long circuit for the last lap. Whether we've got the bridge or not, I don't know. Again, we'll find out in a minute. For me, USA isn't a pain. It's never been one of them circuits that's a pain at all. It's been quite a nice circuit to me, and like I said, I quite enjoy it personally. There was something about it as well, like, I think this was the circuit that, not this one in particular, I think it was the short circuit, that you did in the demo disc that I played as well. So I have a bit of practice with the United States. I think that's why I liked it so much. So now the question is the bridge going to be open? Yes or no? If it's not, I'm going to have to quickly make a beeline for the finish. There we go. As I was saying, the only way you know is if the bridge is shut or not. I had absolutely no clue the bridge was going to be shut then. So I did lose a couple of seconds in that race, but I don't know how this one's going to go. Alpine, this is the one that gets me. So that gate is also something. So here's the test driver. He's finally showed his face. This was the test driver I was telling you about. Now he tops out at 160 miles an hour. Also, we've got the short circuit first time round. Nice. So, I mean, this race will be a lot shorter by 1 lap. Do you know how exactly the game chooses the checkpoints? As in chooses what route to drive? I don't know. One thing that is worth knowing, that I do know, is that on here, the what do you call it? The shortcut, the big shortcut that you can use in this particular race, is shut for most of the race, apart from one particular race. Also, that was pretty bad. That was bad. Wish I didn't do that, to be honest. Lost me a bit of time there. So now we've got the long circuit. Now, whether the bridge is going to be open. Now, the fence is open. Yes, there it is. You have to be quick to react to this. I've also jumped up a place as well. That's good. So the shortcut will be open, but it'll be right at the end. Also, Dan just didn't like me then, did he? Dan was like, nah, I'm gonna hit you. Sometimes it's easy. I know that Toon was saying before that sometimes it's easy to predict, but it isn't always easy to predict when an AI is going to hit you or not. It's also funny as well because some of the characters get on with other characters and others don't. A lot of characters hate the test driver, apart from Dan. Dan actually quite likes the test driver. So what I mean by, like, they all have a love or hate relationship with the test driver. They all either like or dislike each other. Anyway, to kind of make things a bit more interesting on that one. You've also got the fact that, well, you could obviously have the test driver speak, but he's just like the Stig, he just doesn't speak. So that's always a fun time. Also, they closed the gate. Bugger. That's not even good. So I have to keep an eye on the fence. You probably wonder what fence. So there's one right near the end of the level, circuit should I say, and I have to keep a close eye on it, because if it opens I have to go down it to get the shortcut. Usually it opens on the last lap, but if you're lucky it might open on lap 3. Pretty sure it opens on the last lap in both regions of the game. Don't know about the Japanese version, like I said, not a clue about that. And again, the rubber banding is a real bugbear. No, so the gate's shut till the last lap. Okay, cool. That's fine. So I need to be very careful as well. I keep seeming to mess up the jump on the last bit here. So I do need to be careful to make sure that I actually don't hit that boulder again, because I keep hitting it. There we go, that's good. So, what we're gonna get? Yeah, we're gonna get the long one. Okay. So we've got the gate should be open again. I'd hope. Is the gate open again? Yes, it is. So there's actually like a false herring there, which is you could obviously turn left and go into that tunnel, but that tunnel doesn't do anything. So if you hit that tunnel, that's a dead end for you. It's like game over, pretty much. Oh, that's one other thing I haven't mentioned yet. So you have lives, I think, or credits. So if you win a race, you get a credit, which is always a fun time. If you lose, you get to retry again. You only get a limited amount of game overs as well. So here's the big checkpoint, the shortcut I was telling you about. So test driver is right behind me, and hopefully he doesn't do anything stupid. And we beat him, nice. Good stuff. Okay, so I don't know how Japan's gonna go, but time is actually gonna be when I cross the line. So get yourself ready on time. So there is a big shortcut in this game that we're going to be taking, and we are going to be doing the long variation for pretty much every single lap. So the gate to my left there, that is the bit I'm actually looking for on this particular race. So we'll see how this goes. This might be the first time I've ever got a 43 for this game. Like, if it was done on emulation, that would be interesting, but yeah. This one's actually gone quite well so far. And there's been, out of a possible 11 gold splits so far, I've got 9 of them. So this is PB pace, and it seems like I was saving seconds each time. So we'll see how that goes. Also, that gate just disappears. Like, it just doesn't exist. Which is always a lot of fun. Also, just going to squeeze past Dan there. So you're like, how do you know about that shortcut? So the only way you know about that shortcut is you either get to go through it or you don't get to go through it. And the only way you'll actually know for certain is if you decide, oh, okay, I'm going to try and do this on this lap. It's the only way you can do it. You have to realise when it's a fence and when it's not. Luckily, you can tell from a mile away when it is. So you're all good. Another thing that's worth noting, and this is a considerable notable difference, is on the long group for Japan, on the European version, you can actually have, as you just saw, there's some debris in the way. You can have debris that gets in your way. So you have to make sure you avoid that. The gate's still open. It's great. So that shortcut actually saves a couple of seconds, I think, per lap. Something like that. So you never do the short circuit, but there is a shortcut that makes you kind of do a short circuit. I don't know. There it is. So it's opened a lap early. I didn't think it had opened on lap 3, but here we are. Yeah, we're gonna hit the short circuit. No, we got the long circuit. Boo. No. Okay, so the debris changed, as you can see. A lot more of the. There's a lot more debris on the road now. You also have to be careful with the barriers as well, because the barriers can also screw you over if you're not early enough to hit them. It's always a fun time. And also, one last thing as well is now that gate's there again, it means that we've got to do, I think, the last circuit. Do the cones slow you down? No, they don't actually, surprisingly. So I think we've just got, well, there's only this last lap now. So all I've got to do really is, that shortcut is now closed again. So I think we're on the short circuit here. We're going to have the long way around for the barrier. Again, you have to adapt on the fly here. So I have to admit, my driving's not been great this run, but I will take this if this is a PB. I'll just say that. It does seem like this is a lot quicker than what I expect. A lot quicker. Get ready on time, by the way, because it is coming up rather sudden. And time. Blimey. And you also get this, congratulations, you won! I'm kind of speechless about that, to be honest. That run was really good. To kind of just mention how good that run was. My previous PB was a 44.22. That was nearly a minute faster somehow. I'm absolutely speechless. Also, yeah, they show off this Porsche ending thing that you can't drive, as you say, Survivor. But I will just say, thank you again to WASD for having me. I'm glad that I could finally participate in this marathon because, like I said, I didn't have me on it last year or so to try and participate. But the other thing is as well is thank you to all of those that donated for the green car and all the cars, to be honest, the ones that donated for the colours. You get a mirror mode and there's also a prototype as well. The mirror mode is, like I said, everything's switched over. That's got its own category, and there's even 100% as well, which is where you do the normal and the mirror mode in one run. That run, though, in itself is quite tricky, but from my perspective, from where I'm sat, I'm quite happy with that. Thank you again to WASD for having me, and yeah, I'll hand it back to the host.
Right.